so nice to have you all, and we've had a little chat, introductions and everything. We'll try and make it as interactive as possible, and we also have some time for a couple of exercises, games, which Tasmia will kindly organize. So because it's a small group, we'll try and make it as interactive as possible, and you're all masters in your area, and gratitude is probably not a kind of what we say is an expert area, where an expert has to talk to anyone about it. But today, like we said, it's about bringing it back to the focus and also try and see if we can make it a habit, and we all know that more than big ideas, how well ideas get implemented determines the success of a particular endeavor. And for us, as a mental health specialist, we do encourage people to think about gratitude journaling, but with the difficult times that we are living in, it's not easy. So we're just going to focus back on something that we already know and see a few things that we can do to make this as a habit. And as I say, I'm not a gratitude expert, and we can all learn together. So we start with the quote, it's the fairest blossom which springs from the soul, something that's very deep within all of us. And as I was mentioning, we're probably familiar with expressions like thanks, and when somebody said something nice or does something to you, but it's probably slightly more nuanced than just an utterance of the word thank you. And when you really express that gratitude from deep within, it's a positive emotional expression that also has some very powerful biological function, and we'll come to that in a minute. And it can really affirm sort of the good things that we have received, and gives us a lot of confidence, allows us to overcome any stresses which comes with the fear of future. And why is it important? And it can bring about a variety of physical, psychological, emotional and social benefits, and it also helps us to appreciate the positive elements in our lives. And as I mentioned, we are all very familiar with feelings of dissatisfaction, particularly with Corona. All our plans, including mine, every day when I wake up, I'm thinking, do I really make a plan? Will this go according to plan? Can I plan the next week, next month? Nothing is going according to plan, and the people that we want to meet, even today we had a lot of people who wanted to come today, and 10 people couldn't come because one of them had a positive test, and that kind of has a ripple effect. So there's a lot of distress around us, and sometimes we kind of compare ourselves to others and think, why me? And I get this question all the time when people have a serious mental health problem in themselves or their loved one. Say, everything was going fine, why now? What happened? And so it is very difficult to be grateful in current circumstances. It's only natural that we kind of express that dissatisfaction in that way. But again, if you want to get over that, this is probably why we're talking about it today, that it's important to be able to express that sense of gratitude and experience it. And so some of the things gratitude helps us to do, again, with prayer and meditation, it connects us to something larger than us, a bigger being. And it also helps to improve relationship not only with us, with people around us. That's very important. And from that, you have the sense of belonging, which allows us to cope with everyday stress, and gives us a sense of positive emotions, feeling more love, and all this translates into more activity, productivity, and you can also be able to move very freely because you're not confined by this sense of dissatisfaction. And we looked at different dimensions, the physical, emotional and social dimensions, and how gratitude is very closely linked to the well-being. There are a number of research papers, you can read about it, but we just wanted to put up a slide to summarize some of these things. And we know that grateful people are healthier, they exercise more, and they're less bothered by aches and pains. Their pain threshold is is very high, and so they can withstand a lot of pain. And they are also very helpful, compassionate, and hence become very likable people, which means they are less lonely and isolated. They're very grateful people, so they are more happy, they're optimistic, they're joy to be with, and hence they're more productive and likable. So in many ways, it's about practicing it very deeply. Now we do have this social expression to say that we want to be thankful, but sometimes people say thanks for the sake of saying thanks, or they want to impress others, or they might be feeling that they could be reprimanded if they didn't say thanks. But here we're really talking about digging something very deep within all of us, which can really come out as a fountain to connect and help us flourish. So having seen the benefits of gratitude, we thought we'll just go into looking at some of the more common ways and small exercises to practice gratitude. And as we mentioned about connecting with a higher being, meditation helps with emotional regulation and self-motivation. And there is something called gratitude meditation. So it's really looking at various elements of our lives and things around us. So this is about being with yourself. And then there's something called gratitude mapping. So for those of us who are more visual, there is a very good way of expressing gratitude through a visual mood board that you can put up on a board where you can see the things that you're grateful for, and that also helps us to remind ourselves what we are thankful for every day, because when we go through life, we all have this sinking feeling sometimes where we don't know where we're heading. The fear of future sometimes grips us, but when you see the journey that we have taken, the good things that are around us, and it's really about acknowledging that and celebrating that helps us have hope for the future. The other method that we have seen useful is to write in short notes of paper and in paper and put them in a jar, and this also sort of gives us some visual manifestation of what is in a jar. To think about it like a jar of sweets, for example, and I'm sure we will all have experienced this with children. And even in the clinics we do have this, have a jar of sweets or something goody. They believe that there is something there. They may or may not get it, but children get very attracted by this sort of goody jar, right? And they feel that would give them a sense of happiness or contentment. I've seen that in salons, in clinics, And so for us, if we know that there's a full jar, if it had 2 papers, then probably we're thinking we need more. But keep putting more. And there's a nice jar with colorful papers, like how they've done it. So it is really about exercising that. And as our friend here said, it's about really committing and doing it. So it's about exercising that part of us, rather than just being thankful, really making that happen, making that a habit every day. And one size doesn't fit all, so we have to find new things. So these are some of the ways. I'm sure when we do our exercise, we will learn more ways of expressing gratitude. And there is then gratitude journals. It's a very effective way. So you kind of particularly focus on what you're grateful for, rather than just commenting on what really happened. So it is one step deeper than that. And sometimes you can write it 1 to 3 times per week. So that itself is sufficient. And think about 4 or 5 things to start with, and up to 10 things. And it could be very simple as well. And it may not be that easy to identify things that we are thankful for, but we've just put some prompts and examples. So it could be simple pleasures, someone making a cup of coffee, or hearing a favorite song on radio, or happy memories. Think about memorable days, birthdays, anniversaries. Think about important people in your lives, and the world around us, nature, the beach, the sun, the sand, the sea, and simple acts of kindness, random acts, and you don't know why these things are happening, but just do them, you know. And never forget yourself, you know, even those small accomplishments, you know, turning up on time, you know, learning something new, you know, working towards your wellness or fitness goals, you know, all of that is important. And also have some time for yourself and remember those very quiet, calm moments that you've spent with yourself and your loved ones, you know. So these are some of the things that we could think about. And the next one, so we have some time for activity. I think we're well within time, right? Yeah, so we have a couple of activities, and because we are a small group, you know, I would very much like us to share our experiences and what we are grateful for. And Tasmia will lead the next part of the talk. Over to you, Tasmia.
So I'm just going to hand out these. So we've all heard about bingo, right? But have you ever played a gratitude bingo? So we're going to do that here, where instead of numbers, we're going to tick off the things that we're grateful for, and I'm going to read out them in a jumbled order, and whoever gets the bingo says bingo. Or you can just say grateful, you know, instead of bingo. The stars in the sky. If you think you're grateful for that, you're just going to tick it. And my cat. Can initiate different things. Now these was just a vague outline of things that we can be grateful for, but we can always alter and change this, you know. And in a way, this reminds us that, you know, these are so many things that we've missed out. Like, for example, my siblings. After reading this, I realized that I'm actually thankful that I have a brother and sister to spend my time with, and, you know, be thankful that I at least have a roof over my head. So many times we forget that. So the next quick...
I didn't get you the roof over the head.
Have a house to live in.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. To have that perfect duet to sleep in. We take these daily things so granted. To have that running warm water to take a quick shower in the morning. So many people don't have that. And maybe when we reflect onto these things, it kind of makes us feel thankful and grateful that, you know, maybe just getting up and saying, thank you, Mom, for whatever you're doing in the morning. Just that one thank you. It's just a word, 2 words for us, but maybe that thank you might make her entire day. Or saying thank you to your servant. You know, we all have servants at home. Maybe when they come, we could just be like, thank you for whatever you're doing, you know? And it's not that it's giving us anything but a good feeling, but for them it is everything. Those 2 words can change their entire day.
Every morning when I wake up, and then I do gratitude meditation.
Yeah.
And it just...
Activity-led and outcome-based, you know, that's what we have all become in the modern world. You know, people ask, you know, why stress? You know, how does stress happen? You know, you can look at it in so many different ways. You know, stress is more of a physical and a physics terminology. You know, so people don't associate with the mind, but the manifestation of stress is varied in different areas. You know, and so we kind of have almost become machines, which means we have to troubleshoot, identify a problem and fix it. So we're always in that mentality, you know, so we wake up with a list of things to do and list of problems to solve. So even in schools, you know, we say, okay, let's solve a problem. You know, that's how we've always been living. And when there are lots of problems that cannot be solved by the methods that we have, we then realize there is something else that's happening, you know, because we are not just machines to solve problems, although life has some problems we need to solve. So the fuel is gratitude here, because you know, I'll tell this to people all the time. They say, no, doc, I have these 4 or 5 things to do. If I do this, I'll be perfectly fine, you know. So they're trying to do all of that, you know. So, but then how would you get the energy to do it? You know, how would you be hopeful that we can confidently walk out of this room because we're grateful that we came into this room safely? You know, that sort of thing is lost, right? So there are published research on this, but sadly, we haven't been able to, this is from my own practice, you know, we haven't been able to systematically teach people how to practice this. You know, I know a number of people even now who are in a powerful positions, you know, they have material wealth, but because their outcomes are not fulfilled, because that checklist is not ticked, they feel that life is gone, and if you're grateful for what you have, you kind of recycle what you have and then create the future going forward. And this is very important in very difficult times. We can't emphasize enough. Although, like you said, it makes others feel good. It makes us feel good too. So thank you. And and I certainly, on reflection, haven't had the time or the energy and the effort to look through it in great depths. So although we are thankful for things that we do, we're overwhelmed with whatever is happening, and we have to do this, that, and the other. But taking the time to reflect and record and experience it, really gives the confidence going forward. And this is the case when you read about leaders who have overcome adversities. Even now I speak to business owners who still keep their employees on the payroll in spite of them not knowing what could happen to the business, in spite of their advisors asking them to do otherwise. There are companies which are not cutting their budgets on essential things like the well-being, for example. So those kind of activities, are expressions of gratitude within the communities, which will give us a lot of hope. And I think, in my view, there are, this is this invisible agent that's influencing all of us. And the only way out of this is digging deep into us and using that powerful resource that we have, so that we can be resilient and move forward.
I have my own gratitude jar, and it's a big, beautiful jar. I've decorated with my creatives because I wanted to, welcome me. I wanted to look at it and feel happy just by looking at it. So every day I wake up, and maybe not first thing in the morning, before the day ends, I take a colorful chit and I write up one thing that I'm grateful for in the entire 24 hours that has happened with me, and I put it in the jar. On 31st night, I open it with my family and we read out those chits. So sometimes we forget the memories that we've made, maybe in the beginning of the year. So when we open that chit, we go like, oh, you remember this? And you go down that memory lane. Because for some people, writing is a bit difficult. Nobody has the time. But just taking a quick piece of paper and just writing maybe one word, or maybe you could be like, oh, I saw this beautiful stranger today, and the stranger smiled. That is happiness for someone. Or maybe I fed a street cat on the streetway. So when you open these chits on New Year's Eve, I think that's the best way to celebrate it, because you're transitioning to another year with all the beautiful memories that you've made in the past and forgetting all the negative ones. So it took time, yes, but initially I was not that prompt with it, but now I don't think I want to start my New Year's without going through memory lane. So we can all do that.
So you are absolutely right about certain aspects of altruism being sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, right? I feel good and powerful. I just give somebody so that I feel big. Meaning giving that.
Really from the heart.
Exactly. That's where I think the old studies were from. But now he makes a very powerful case. You should look at some of his TED Talks. He makes it very simple. Sometimes you listen to him and think, is that it? Really? But that is world changing, right? This complex mathematical or algorithms and all of that. Okay, that's all in the back room. Simple things. Simple. Yeah, they make it very simple. That is the key, right? Really making it simple and making it work for us. So Adam Grant, you will find a lot of interesting work from Wharton. Yeah. And Dubai, I definitely feel, Dubai is coming from London, where people complain about almost everything. In Dubai, there is a lot of gratitude, and people do feel that, Seeing and expressing gratitude, which comes with certain mental disorder, the blocks, and how do you overcome them? So this is another huge area where one can go into, So many times, we have this, the new year, we have a number of people wanting to come here for weight loss. Yeah. I always tell people, like, look, if you are able to come to a place like this, you can afford it, which means you have a bit more sense in thinking that less calorie, more activity means loss. You don't need to spend, he's a marketing guy. I said, look, no, you don't need to spend money here, right? It doesn't sound right. You know that, right? If you come this far to this hotel, you know this. They say, yes, we know that. But that is not happening. But that's why we're talking, right? If it happened, we wouldn't be here. And that applies to many other goals in the new year. So many times I have a number of people who would say, I can't meditate and I can't be grateful because, why this, why that, And then we look at barriers, but that's a completely separate topic on its own, but it's very powerful because, and how do you then allow them to remove those barriers to see beyond it, So that's another interesting point. So it's very important. It's not that we cannot throw them all away, don't get me wrong. When we have so many cars on the road, we have pollution coming with it. So we cannot just say, ban all the cars, So that's not what I'm trying to say. But even in good, there is something that kind of creates some issues going forward. So it's about now seeing the difference. And if your boss says, look, you're not applying yourself in a job, which means you're doing the right thing. I know it's all controversial, right? But I will back it up, So what you're trying to do is, if you become what the corporate wants you to be, you're not going to be productive. I don't want to be the CEO of an organization where all these people have become what my organization, no, they have to be. And then they can do a job. There's two different things, We want to bring you to help me do this. I don't want you to be me or my organization. But we all go, no, I want you and you and you and you and all to be. That is not going to be the productive organization that I'm looking for. So we want to bring, all these diverse people coming together. You be you, just you, not like her, not like him, not like him,
Because everybody has different.
And the network effect creates a productivity and peace. Otherwise, we are competing and muscling and this and that, and we're looking at where are we heading? We've got enough things to do, So that's where the rewiring has to happen. This is where we were thinking about corporate. And if you look at Adam Grant, he really radically throws these things up. And luckily, America is listening to him, which is very interesting. I think he has got the attention of some very powerful people. It's very interesting, and this will come, So yeah, we can create a movement with this. We're not saying anything that's bad, but it's about allowing people to look at things differently, because that is the deal of the hour, and that's how we are progressing going forward.